Looking at crimp type connectors, we have a tray of connectors below and I have a set of crimpers and pliers and strippers above. So they range in price anywhere from about $6 right here to $95 right here for the snap-on ones. You can get all sorts of styles. These are really short ones for tighter space, although I find them a little bit harder. You got to have good grip strength there to work those. These ones are ratcheting style. These work fantastic for bare connectors. And even if you have these plastic ones, you can pull the plastic piece off and use them as bare connectors. But these work fantastic for bare connectors. These are Princess Auto Specials. They're like $16 or something like that. These Milwaukee ones, 20, 25 bucks, stripper, cutter. And then they have a crimper in here as well. It's down in the groove here. Again, these require a bit more grip strength to make sure you squeeze them and get a good bite on those crimp type connectors. All in all, if you're just doing crimp connectors for almost all of your service work, these snap-on set, they have a great lever length. They squeeze really hard. They work really well without a whole lot of effort. They have an insulated crimper and a bare crimper, as well as a cutter. No stripper. They do have a smaller set of these with a built-in stripper. If I could do it over again, I'd probably get those instead of these. And then, of course, we have our classic. These ones usually come in kits like this, $6 or $8 combination. The strippers are okay. The cutters are terrible. Nobody ever uses the machine screw cutter. And the insulated terminal crimpers over here are actually quite good. I did do a test on most of these crimpers to crimp connectors and pull with a fish scale to see who is stronger. And surprisingly, these ones, when you use a plastic insulated connector with these type of crimpers, putting about the same force as I'd use on any of the other ones, they got about 50 pounds worth of pull force, and anything above 10 is overkill. We don't really need much more. So yeah, actually overall for the dollars, good value. If you're working as a technician, I find that these hinge pins wear out and you will go through lots of these. Either way, let's talk about how to use them properly. Of course, they're going to be color coded. And so the information you'll see in the rest of this course module will explain these color codes. But essentially you're going from red, which is going to be your smallest connection, 1820s. Blue is going to be 14-16 gauge, and we go yellows are going to be 10-12 gauge. So these are a standard, industry standard, and so something that you can expect to see. You can see in my tray here, I have some of these heat shrunk ones. These ones work fine, and you can crimp them and then heat shrink them. Otherwise, these bare type butt connectors, if you have limited amount of harness space and you're trying to make a service repair, these work fantastically well, and we might as well just start with one of those. We'll reuse my soldered wire here. I'll cut it and we will strip it. One of the things I find helpful is just being aware of the length or how much material you strip off when you make these connections. So just line up to that dent in the center there, strip it back, put it in place. And the ones I really like, we'll use these ratcheting type crimpers. They're going to fit in that 16 gauge. Center it, give it a squeeze. What I like about it is it puts a really good dent in there. So let's back this up so you can see. Puts a really good dent in there and it holds them really secure. So big fan of that. Get the other side in there and we'll use the snap-on set for the other side. So we'll do a comparative. And we'll use the bare crimper. And again, this one puts a good dent in it as well. So now we have our snap-on on this side. We have our ratcheting crimper on this side. And maybe we should just pull them and see which one fails. Maybe I'm not strong enough to make it fail. Nope. Okay, I'm not strong enough to make either of these crimpers fail. So I think either one would work perfectly fine. Of course, remember, when you heat shrink them, to heat shrink about 3 times the length of your connection, so overlapping. That way you prevent any moisture from getting in there. And if you can use double wall heat shrink, that's even better. And that's going to put a glue layer in there and then your heat shrink on the outside. Of course, if you're going to use your plastic style, non-insulated, so these cheap ones that come in the kit, they have a lot of challenges. So I'll do 2 of them, one left the way they are and one the way I actually use them. So let's do that. We'll throw this in there. We see that the copper wire is sticking through the silver end. We'll use this snap-on insulated style. We'll give them their best kick at the can to see how they look. And what I don't like about these is that they get so fanned out at the end. Even though we put a good crimp on there and this will hold the 10 pounds no problem, I just find that they look a little bit ugly. My preferred method would be to take these plastic insulated terminals, simply hold on to them with a pair of pliers, grab a needle nose in the other end of the rubber or the plastic piece, and simply remove the plastic off of it. Doesn't take long. So even if you get them in a kit, now you've got a bunch of bare terminals there. And you can go and install them the same way you would have done any other bare terminal connection. Now you can solder these as well if you want, but electrically it doesn't matter, and mechanically it doesn't matter. If you're going to use these ratcheting style, use the teeth, push the teeth into the full round back, and let this half circle, the semicircle in the jaw, go on the seam, and that'll prevent these bare type connectors from splitting, which is good. But now we have 2 electrical connections and they're both again going to work out just fine, but we will throw something in them. I got a seal pick. We'll throw this in there and see if which one breaks. All right, I've deformed the eyelets, but they haven't pulled, which tells us that both of these connections are going to be perfectly fine. So whichever one you use, whether you go with bare or whether you go with the insulated crimp, they're going to work just fine. The goal is that it holds up to 10 pounds of pull test. So that's the way you would treat these plastic ones. Again, these snap-on crimpers work really well for that. These ratchetings work really well for bare metal connectors. And if you want just a one tool, to be really honest, while this one is inexpensive, it seemed pretty okay, I would go with the smaller set of the snap-ons over all of them. These little guys for the insulated connectors, I find them just too hard to get a good bite. They are, when I tested everything and checked the weights and how much they could hold, these by far were the weakest set of crimpers. So I wouldn't buy these again. And that's been crimping bare and insulated connectors.